Good morning, everyone. The next topic will be all about the different kinds of obligations. This is the second part of our discussion. But before going to the next topic, we will have a very brief review on our previous lessons, and I will just discuss to you those that are very important topics. So kindly bring out sheets of paper and ball pen and make an outline on our topic. So we have defined what is an obligation. An obligation is a juridical necessity to give, to do, or not to do. If you recall, there are three prestations, that is to give, to do, or not to do. And when we say juridical necessity, it means that in case there is a failure to perform the said obligation, then the person whose right to demand has breached can go against to that person who failed to perform his obligation to the courts, meaning there is a legal sanction. So we have five sources of obligation: the law, contract, quasi-contract, delicts, and quasi-delicts. This is provided under Article 1157 of the New Civil Code. Always remember that those obligations arising from contracts have the force of law between the contracting parties and should be complied with in good faith. Okay, remember that word, good faith. What are the basic distinctions between a civil and natural obligation? Remember, there are two main distinctions between the two. A civil obligation, in civil obligation, they derive their binding force from positive law, while a natural obligation derive their binding force from equity and justice. So, ang civil obligation, yung nakikita nyo sa Article 1156, yun ang civil obligation. Ang binding force niya ay ang positive law or yung law itself. Yung natural obligation naman, ang binding force niya ay equity and justice. Another distinction or difference is that a civil obligation, it can be enforced by court action. Kasi nga juridical necessity siya, di ba? So, you can enforce your right by court action. While a natural obligation, it cannot be enforced by court action, but it shall depend on the conscience of the debtor. Next, what is the degree of diligence required of a person in the performance of an obligation? Kung may isang obligasyon ka daw, kung may obligasyon ka, ano ang degree ng diligence, no? So, every under Articles 1733 and 1755, it provides that every person obliged to give something is also obliged to take care of it with the proper diligence of a good father of a family. That's the general rule. That's Article 1163. Article 1163, ang kailangang diligence daw is proper diligence of a good father of a family. So what is the exemption there too? One, that is, unless the law or the stipulation of the party requires another standard of care. So there are two exemptions. That is, one, unless the law, that is number one, law, or number two, when there is a stipulation of the parties requiring another standard of care. Paano naman sa mga common carrier? Ang common carrier, for example, yung mga tricycle, di ba? Ang common carrier. In case of common carrier naman, they are given, or under Article 1733 and 1755, they have to exercise extraordinary diligence in the performance of duty to carry goods, or utmost diligence in the transport of persons. So, sa isang obligasyon, the general rule is that ordinary diligence lang kailangan. Ang ordinary diligence ay yung diligence of a good father of a family, while there are two exemptions, which is the law and when the parties stipulated another standard of care. Sa common career naman, the diligence required again is extraordinary diligence. So kindly know that the different kinds of diligence, ha? Ang isang good father of a family, it is described by the Supreme Court in the case of Picard versus Smith. The Supreme Court described a good father of a family by first stating who is not. Ba? So, paano, bago malaman kung sino ang a good father of a family, dinefine muna nila kung sino ang hindi. So, according to the court, he is not and is not supposed to be omniscient of the future. So, binigay ko to dun sa assignment niyo. Rather, he is one who takes precautions against any harm when there is something before him to suggest or warn him of the danger or to foresee it. So, for example, a driver of a car who was not able to control the car due to the negligent act of a truck driver in encroaching upon its lane, the court held the driver liable for damages for the injuries suffered by the passengers of a jeepney. Why? Because he did not act with the proper diligence required by law. According to the Supreme Court, the driver was held to be liable because he should have been more careful in managing the car to prevent the accident. Next, anong mga remedies? Anong mga remedies ng isang aggrieved party? Ang aggrieved yun yung na-violate yung right niya. What are the remedies of an aggrieved party in case one of the parties failed to comply with his obligation? Ano daw ang remedyo mo pag yung may obligasyon sa'yo is hindi na-perform yung obligasyon niya sa'yo? There are 3. Okay? There are 3 under Article 1165. 1 is the specific performance to obtain compliance, 2 rescission, or 3 damages. Okay? Damages I already discussed to you. There are 6 kinds of damages: the moral, exemplary, nominal, temperate, actual, and liquidated damages. So, next, as a rule, let's go to the discussion on delay. As a rule, before delay may be incurred, there must be a demand, diba? No demand, no delay. So, ano naman ang exemptions or exceptions to the rule na hindi kailangan ng demand? Okay? So, automatic na magkakaroon na ng delay na. So, hindi mo na kailangan hintayin yung demand sa'yo ng tao. Number 1, there are only 4 instances. Please remember this. Number 1, when the obligation or the law expressly so declares. Okay? Number 2, when the time is of the essence. Number 3, when demand is useless, as when the obligor has rendered it beyond his power to perform. And number 4, when there is an acknowledgement of default. Second question, what is required in order that demand may not be necessary? Okay? Ano daw ang kailangan para hindi na kailangan pa ng demand? Okay? In order that demand may not be necessary. Ito. Hindi na daw kailangan ng demand. It is required that the obligation or the law expressly states that the obligor shall incur in delay if he fails to fulfill the obligation upon the arrival of the designated date or upon the arrival of such date. Demand shall not be necessary. Binigay ko to sa case ninyo. So, next topic. Who are the persons liable for damages? Under Article 1170, those who in the performance of their obligation are guilty of fraud, 1, 2, negligence, 3, delay, And 4, those in manner contravene the tenor of the agreement are liable for damages. So, 4 na instances yun when there is a fraud, negligence, delay, or those who in any manner contravene the tenor of the agreement or the contract. For example, doon sa binigay kong case, when, for example, the private respondent was issued a first-class ticket by Pan Am Airline, as the latter represented that there were available first-class accommodation when he bought his ticket. However, when he boarded the plane, nung sumakay siya ng plane, he was asked to go to the tourist accommodation. Hindi siya pinasakay sa first class. Pero ang binili niya is first class ticket. Ang inupuan niya pagkapasok niya is dun lang sa tourist accommodation. Dun sa economy usually yon. Now, he sued the Pan Am Airline for damages. Ang question, is the carrier liable? Tandaan nyo, carrier to. Ang carrier or common carrier, ang diligence required here is extraordinary diligence. So, ang question, is the carrier liable? Kung ganun na ng tanong, huwag kayo agad sumagot ng kung ano-ano. Sumagot muna kayo ng yes or no. So, question, is the carrier liable? Obviously, the answer is yes. The reason, why? In hiding that the private respondent, the unavailability of the first class accommodation, Pan Am Airline was guilty of, ano yung liable for damages niya? Diba, 4 lang yon. Fraud, negligence, delay, and those in any manner contravene the tenor. So, pasok siya lahat dun sa 3. Yung fraud, yung negligence, and those in any manner contravene the tenor. Wala namang delay dun. So, 3. The Supreme Court said that in misleading the plaintiff into purchasing first-class tickets in conviction that there had been confirmed reservation when in fact they had not, the defendant willfully and knowingly placed himself into position of having breached the contract. Okay. Next question. May a carnapping or robbery be considered fortuitous an event? So kindly recall what is a fortuitous event. A fortuitous event is one that cannot be foreseen, or even if foreseen is inevitable. So, ang fortuitous event, ito yung hindi mo maiisip na mangyayari. At kahit pwedeng mangyari, at kahit mangyayari pa to, wala ka nang magagawa. Yun lang ang ibig sabihin nun. So, the question again, may a carnapping or robbery be considered fortuitous event? Yes or no muna? Let's explain. The answer is no. Robbery per se, like carnapping, is not a fortuitous event. It does not foreclose the possibility of negligence. To be considered as a fortuitous event, carnapping entails more than the mere forceful taking of another's property. Okay? It must be proved and established that the event was an act of God and was done solely by third parties, and that neither the claimant nor the person alleged to be negligent has any participation. Okay, next question. When may a party to a contract be exempt from compliance with the obligations due to a force majeure? Kailan ka daw pwedeng ma-exempt? Kung party ka sa isang contract, kailan ka daw pwedeng ma-exempt sa compliance dun sa obligasyon mo due to force majeure? Okay. There are 3 instances. Take down of the following. In order that a party to a contract may be exempt from non-compliance with its obligation due to force majeure, the following elements must be established. Since these are elements, ibig sabihin, kailangan kompletos rekados. To hindi pwedeng kulang ang isa. So, there are 3. Take down of the following. 1. The event must be independent of human will. Independent of human will. Ibig sabihin, wala kang kontribusyon ni isa. Okay, number 2. The occurrence must render it impossible for the debtor to fulfill the obligation in a normal manner. So, ang ibig sabihin lang nito is yung pangyayari. Yung pangyayari nito, pag nangyari na, is magiging result is that the fulfillment of your obligation is very much impossible. For example, nagkaroon ng tsunami sa lugar ninyo. Okay, nagkaroon ng tsunami, magde-deliver ka sana ng sasakyan, ngayon na-wash out ngayon yung sasakyan. Di very impossible na hahanapin mo pa ba yung sasakyan. Okay? Since tsunami naman yun, be assume also na masisira na yung sasakyan. Okay? Number 3. When the obligor be free of participation in or aggravation of the injury to the creditor, there must be an injury on the part of the creditor. Ang injury, when we say injury, hindi kailangan nasugatan yung creditor. Okay? It may be, for example, magde-deliver ka sana ng cake sa kasal nila. O, diba? Hindi naman nakakasugat ang cake, diba? Pag nag-deliver ka, magde-deliver ka sana, kaso hindi ka nakapag-deliver kasi na-disgrasya ka, o diba, fortuitous event naman yun. Although fortuitous event in case of force majeure, okay? Acts of man. Anong mangyayari? Alangan itakbo mo pa yung cake, na-disgrasya ka na nga. So, since it caused nagkaroon ng breach of contract by reason of such force majeure, is ang injury doon hindi yung nakakasugat yung cake. Okay? Since kasal yun, syempre kailangan naman nila ng cake ganyan. Ang injured doon is yung on their part is yung kumbaga delay. Okay? Malay mo, hinintay nila yung cake bago mag-start ang lahat o na-delay ng oras o ng isang oras, babayaran nila yung per hour. For example, let's say 3,000 yung per hour. That's an injury on their part. Okay? Imagine mo na lang na naghihintay ka kasal mo, diba? Tapos na-delay. So, that's the injury on the part of the creditor. Another is bigyan ko kayo ng case. Okay. In one transaction involving a telegraphy company, libelous matters were included by an employee in a message without the consent of the sender, causing humiliation to another. Is the telegraphy company liable for damages? Yes or no? Why? The answer is yes, because the telegraph company's employee was negligent. Okay? And since negligence is hard to prove, the principle of res ipsa loquitur can be made to apply. So, under the law, every time a person transmits a message through the facilities of a corporation engaged in the business of receiving and transmitting the messages, a contract is entered into. Okay? Always remember that, di ba, ang contract pwedeng oral, pwedeng written. Upon receipt of the rate or fee fixed, the corporation undertakes to transmit the message accurately. Remember guys that a corporation is a juridical being. Ang isang korporasyon hindi yan tao. Okay? It's not a natural person. It's only a juridical person. So it can perform its function through its employee. So the acts of its employee in the pursuit of its business are the acts of the corporation. Then, so the Supreme Court to hold the corporation not liable directly for the acts of its employee in the pursuit of its business is to deprive the general public availing of its services of an effective and adequate remedy. Next question. What is the effect of the leniency of the creditor in enforcing its rights? Explain. Ano daw ang epekto pag yung creditor hinahayaan ka lang niya sa obligasyon mo? So, wala siyang pakialam kung may delay na yan o wala. Okay? The answer is None. Okay? Wala. None. According to the Supreme Court in the case of NPC versus EIN Chemical Corporation, the capacity of a contracting party in enforcing its right under the contract does not in any manner diminish the rights thereunder. Ibig sabihin, hindi nababawasan o hindi nadadagdagan yung karapatan niya. A party clearly commits a breach of contract by failing to completely deliver on its contract despite the leniency of the party in enforcing its right. So next, ano ang meaning or what does the phrase in any manner contravene the tenor? In any manner contravene the tenor of the obligations as stated in Article 1170 cover. Ano daw ang coverage nung statement na or yung phrase na in any manner contravene the tenor? So, the Supreme Court ruled, ito ang coverage daw nito. It includes any illicit act or omission which impairs the strict and faithful fulfillment of the obligation and every kind of defective performance. Okay? It includes any illicit act or omission which impairs the strict and faithful fulfillment of the obligation and every kind of defective performance. So, with regards to the distinction between dolo causante and dolo incidente, na-discuss na natin yan. So, bigyan ko kayo agad ulit ng overview of the differences. Number 1 is that dolo causante is also known as causal fraud, while dolo incidente is also known as incidental fraud. Number 2, dolo causante is found in Article 1338, while dolo incidente is found in Article 1344. Another, number 3, dolo causante are those that involves deceptions or misrepresentations of serious character. Okay? While dolo incidente are those which are not serious in character. Number 4, in dolo causante, dolo causante determines or is the essential cause of the consent. Okay? While dolo incidente, from the word incidental, okay, it only refers to some particular act or accident of the obligation. Next difference, number 5. In a dolo causante, the effect is that it will null or void the contract, while in a dolo incidente, it will just oblige the person of employing it to pay for damages. Next question. As a rule, the general rule is that no one is liable in cases of fortuitous events, di ba? Ano naman ang mga exemptions nito? Okay? What are the exemptions? Kung kanina force majeure, ngayon for fortuitous event, okay? Don't forget the 3 elements to exempt you in force majeure, okay? How about in fortuitous event? What are the 3 exceptions? 1, when the law specifies. 2, when the contract specifies. 3, when there is a delay. Number 4, when there is an assumption of risk. Number 5, when the obligor promises to deliver to 2 or more persons who do not have the same interest. Okay? This is found in your 1174 and 1165. So, what are the requisites of a fortuitous events? Okay? I'm asking for the requisites, not for the definition. There are 4 requisites of a fortuitous event. 1, they are the cause of the breach of the obligation must be independent of the will of the debtor. Number 2, the event must be either unforeseeable or unavoidable. 3, the event must be such as to render it impossible for the debtor to fulfill his obligation in a normal manner. And lastly, the debtor must be free from any participation or aggravation of the injury to the creditor. So, ito yung sa may force majeure, diba? It will, kung kompleto itong apat na to, it will now exempt you from the liability. Next. Case ng fortuitous event. The building contractor and the architect made a substantial deviation from the plans and specifications and failed to observe the requisites of workmanship in the construction. So, yung contractor daw at yung architect, hindi nila finalo yung plano mismo ng bahay or ng building. Now, the building contractor also neglected to exercise the requisite degree of supervision, while the plans and specifications prepared by the architect contained inadequacies and defects. Okay? The defects in the construction and in the plans and specifications were the proximate causes that rendered the building unable to withstand the earthquake. Nagkaroon ng earthquake, nagiba ngayon yung building. The reason is that yung contractor, hindi niya sinusupervise yung mga taong nagbibuild ng building. Yung architect naman, gumawa ng plano, pero yung mga ginamit niya is mga defective materials. So, ngayon, the question is, sued for damages, kinasuhan sila. They interpose fortuitous event as their defense. Is it proper? Yes or no? Why? Ngayon, kinasuhan daw sila. Ang defense ng contractor at architect, kasalanan ng earthquake yun, hindi yun kasalanan hindi namin kasalanan, sabi nila. Tama ba yung sinabi nila? So, the answer is no. Okay? Their defense is not correct. The reason, the contractor and the architect cannot claim exemption from liability. The wanton negligence of both the building contractor and the architect in the effecting the plans, designs, and specifications and constructions of the building is such negligence as to amount to bad faith in the performance of their respective task. One who negligently creates a dangerous condition cannot escape liability for the natural and probable consequences thereof. Although the act of the third person or an act of God of which he is not, okay, remember, or an act of God which he is not responsible intervenes the precipitate the loss. Next. Question. When is a common carrier exempted from the liability in case of fortuitous event? For example, okay, si Manong tricycle driver, while driving sa side ng isang tulay, biglang nagkaroon na earthquake. Yung tulay biglang na London Bridge is falling down, tuloy yung tricycle. Okay? The question is, when is a common carrier exempted from liability in case of fortuitous event? In that case, diba, earthquake, hindi naman niya kasalanan nagkaroon ng earthquake, hindi rin naman siyang gumawa ng bridge. Okay? This is the answer. In order that a common carrier may be absolved from liability where there is a loss, destruction, or deterioration of the goods is due to the natural disaster or calamity, it must be shown that such natural disaster or calamity was the proximate and only cause of the loss. This is provided under your Article 1739 of the New Civil Code. Remember that there must be an entire exclusion of human agency from the cause of the injury or the loss.